It's your boy, Just Dom, catching the day's latest news. What's going on around the roads? Find out here first at the TCP NewsBreak.
Good morning, guys, and welcome back to another edition of the TCP NewsBreak. It's your girl, Lady L here, and I have some dynamic women from Planned Parenthood Lancaster here today to discuss some really important issues. I want you guys to stay tuned. You are not going to want to miss this. All right. So today we have Sam Pfeiffer and Courtney. What's his name? Courtney.
It's Bouse, like house, but like house, but with a B.
All right. And Sam and Courtney are Planned Parenthood PA advocates, and they have been doing some dynamic work to really shed light on an issue that of internal racism, really, and discriminatory practices that happen within Planned Parenthood. So, ladies, I want to welcome you to the TCP Morning Show, and I want to welcome you to the NewsBreak. Good morning and welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you. Really excited to be here and really excited to be in your very powerful presence and share this story.
Please, can you share with us about what inspired the collective and what is the collective?
So the collective is pretty much all of the organizing staff across the state for Planned Parenthood Pennsylvania Advocates and some other allies within senior leadership who got together after we had heard, when was it? Gosh, a week ago or just over a week ago on Monday, that there was going to be a massive restructure of the organization that would result in like people losing their jobs in their healthcare. And like that's really what was the big catalyst, but we'd all had been like working together for a while. Like a lot of us had been working together for a while to like combat internally some of the like racism and transphobia we had seen prior, in the organization and with leadership. This just like the restructure where like the restructure which would result in a young Black woman losing her job and like a couple other folks losing their jobs too. Like that was just the catalyst for us to like go public and to like really band together to fight this. Like people's healthcare and people's lives are on the line now. And not that they weren't before, but like it reached the point of like crisis and like the point of like action. And yeah.
So what kind of response did you guys get? What was your call to action for the community at large?
Hi, yeah, Sam, she, her pronouns. So we came together very quickly, same day that we found this information out, like extremely rapid response, and put together an open letter crafted by each one of us across the state of Pennsylvania organizers, and wrote out really the trauma that we experience in the workplace at the hands of our executive director, Emily Callan, and also sometimes at the hands of our state field director, Elena Saltzman. This particularly impacted Black and Brown staff more significantly than our white staff, and also our trans and non-binary staffers as well dealt with being misgendered on many occasions. And oftentimes their voices were just left out of processes as well. Our demands were to sign on to our open letter. We now have over 1,000 signatures, and for elected officials and close community partners to also sign on to our letter, and that's been very successful so far. There's been a very loud outcry and demand for Emily Callan to step down and stop causing trauma in the workplace so we can truly move forward towards reproductive freedom. And while we have someone like Emily Callan in our workplace, we won't be able to move the needle forward towards freedom because she's literally halting progress.
Well, all right. So before it got to the point of this open letter and all of the advocates kind of coming together for this common goal, what were some of the previous things that you all had tried to do to kind of alleviate or mitigate some of these practices?
So I mean, like for a while we had tried like talking to her like through like our all staff meetings, and talking to leadership, trying to hold them accountable for like, you know, it's not okay to misgender trans staff. It's not okay that we don't hold contractors and hold people accountable when they do that. And you're a leader in the organization and you make twice, sometimes almost 3 times what other people in the organization makes. And that's sort of your job as the leader, to hold those people accountable and prevent harm. So we've been like trying to like do that, or like ask questions and like just have like accountability conversations during all staff meetings, or during like any other setting that we were in with her, to be like, it's not like, this racism is not okay, like misgendering people is not okay, like. And she was like very uninterested in accountability. She's like quickly meetings started dropping, not wanting to talk with us. Like the only acknowledgement she would have when we would raise these concerns was a simple quote, and I quote, "heard." That's all she would say to people like telling about really traumatic experiences, or like telling about like asking for some accountability. So we had tried that for a while. After like, our first step after we heard about the restructuring is that we like sent a letter to the board asking that this is an issue. Like we know that like the board is technically Emily's boss and like would have some authority to like discipline and remove her if necessary. And the board didn't get back to us for 5 days. The board didn't get back. Like we still have no information on severances were offered to everyone, and we still have yet to see severance information in writing. We had tried and took every possible other avenue for like months.
Wow, that's a lot. Especially because I mean, Planned Parenthood is known to be a safe space, and providing resources and accessibility, and a place where you can go and really, you know, be accepted and welcome as who you are. So that is very disheartening to hear. And so I do appreciate you guys really kind of stepping up and putting your livelihoods on the line to speak out about these practices. So I want to know, what were some of the main issues that you guys put in this open letter to the community for everybody to be really made aware of what was going on?
Yeah, well, they're very well listed out on our WordPress. I would suggest everyone go and check that out for a more thorough example of what we've been experiencing. But we truly just came together and wrote out our individual experiences and picked out which ones were most impactful. We spoke about a time where one of our consultants, and trigger warning for folks who are undocumented, called people who are undocumented illegals, and Emily did not change that language, reprimand him. Nothing happened as far as we know. There wasn't even a write-up or a warning. A different staff member actually came forward and reprimanded that person. We dealt with a lot of trauma at the hands of another consultant that we have, a lobbyist, who frankly put us through way too much than we deserve, and was the reason that Emily was hired. Misgendering folks and cornering us many times, and we expressed to Emily that we don't feel safe in the room with this person. This person continued to stay on staff. Emily continued to uplift this person as if they were a very valuable asset, when in reality, doesn't matter about the valuable work they're doing, and that in itself is debatable. It matters that your staff is literally being harmed. Those are just a couple things. I'll pass it to Courtney to talk about some more.
Right? Like we know that like that people of all genders access care, and like because we have like trans non-binary people on staff, that it's super important that we like talk about our services in that way, that we talk about like the full range and spectrum of the people we provide care to our patients, so that our patients can actually feel seen in our advocacy work. And Emily Callan pushed against that. There was, lack of urgency, lack of expediency around addressing any racial justice issues. There was a BuzzFeed article that came out, when was that? In August, that talked about racism at one of the affiliates that we partner with, at Planned Parenthood Western Pennsylvania, where I'm based in Pittsburgh. And I had personally had experienced like trauma at the hands of their staff, and Emily Callan has yet to have a real meeting or debrief with staff about like what that's the culture that affiliate Planned Parenthood Western Pennsylvania created for me and created for like the trans and like BIPOC staff I manage who have to interact with these people. There's like just a real lack of urgency around like addressing racial harm is like another thing that I think is like disappointing, right? Like these things, like that was months and months ago, like, and in that time BIPOC and trans staff have continued to be harmed by like your unwillingness or your like lack of urgency around a conversation like this.
Wow, that's really unfortunate. And I mean, it definitely sounds like just institutional racism has really got its grip in there, and it's kind of just, you know, running rampant, and it's at such a high enough level that it kind of stays in place. So that while everybody's working and everybody's trying to create change, I mean, you can't be as effective when you go to the higher ups and they're like, no, we don't want to make this change. We know what we're supposed to do. We know what our mission says we do, but we're not going to necessarily, you know, do that. So that just brings into a whole lot of questions. Now, what it definitely sounds like is that we are seeing racism play out, discriminatory practices play out, and the fact that we are moving towards a society where people are free to self-identify, where people are able to access a range of resources and care. Can we just talk a little bit? And Pittsburgh, actually, you brought up Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh actually made racism a public health crisis. So can we just talk a little bit about racism and transphobia as a public health crisis? And I mean, especially for you guys as Planned Parenthood advocates, how does that translate into your work?
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. White supremacist practices have really taken a hold from the top at PPPA, Planned Parenthood Pennsylvania Advocates. And we as an organizing team aren't here for that. We are of the community and in the community every day and live here and love here. And it's really important to us that we make sure that those white supremacist practices don't permeate through our organizing work, which is why we came together to ask Emily Callan, demand Emily Callan step down. To organize equitably, we must hold center the folks who walk through our doors, our patients. And we can't do that unless we are listening to them and hearing them, allowing them to have the space they want and need to self-identify and not dictating that, just handing over the resources, building the platform and stepping away. And if we're not able to do that in a wholly equitable way, and we have a leader who is behind closed doors on calls, giving lip service to racial justice issues, but then waiting a week after George Floyd's death to release an email saying, I'm here for the team. But after RBG died, releasing an email within hours. That kind of white feminist practices, it's a health crisis. It absolutely is a public health crisis, particularly when we are supposed to look at her as our mentor and our leader. If I were to look at Emily Callan as my mentor or my leader, I would be stagnant in my work, and hopefully people would push me out too, because it is frankly dangerous. And it's something that we're not here for, particularly transphobia. Emily has used gendered language really often when talking about abortion. Everyone can have abortion. It's not just a women's health issue. There are plenty of folks who aren't women who access abortion care. And that's something that we will yell from the mountaintops forever and always. And we need a leader who will do the same and stand behind us and support us in that. And we're not getting that. And that is frankly dangerous. How is someone who's gender nonconforming or trans going to feel comfortable walking through Planned Parenthood's doors when they know that there is an ED who doesn't value their identity?
That right there, I wish I had like some sound drops, because I would have had like the church clapping going on, because you were on fire, Sam. You were on fire. Oh man, I just want to put a microphone, put you on the podium. Courtney, is there anything that you would like to add to racism and transphobia as a public health crisis?
I mean, I have my background in public health Of course it is. Like, I like how I could even go in further about like how the city of Pittsburgh has failed to like do that, but I'm not here to like talk about local government. I'm here to talk about Planned Parenthood and how they have failed to take that seriously. Like, yeah, they've like surface level like retweet a like article that says racism is a public health crisis, but like to actually address racism and transphobia as a public health crisis, you need to do more than click a button and like retweet. Like, you need to like actually like value your trans and BIPOC staff. And like, it starts there. Like, if you cannot, like, the people who work most closely with you, if you cannot tell them that their lives are like valuable and their perspectives are valuable, like, how are people walking through our doors or our volunteers like going to feel that? Like, it's as simple as that, right? Like, it's so easy to like it like to externally brand. And like, I think to me that's also been like a huge point of frustration is the hypocrisy of like, our external branding says that we like love Black people, our external branding says we love trans people, our external branding says that like, you know, like we shouldn't stigmatize abortion, but that is not the reality that like people who work at PPPA have experienced. Like, I have like we've said, like, BIPOC staff have been traumatized, trans staff have been traumatized. We've heard like disparaging things about abortion care and about how we shouldn't focus on that, when that's like, I mean, I have had an abortion, lots of people on staff have had abortions. Like, it's like crucial, vital healthcare for us. And to hear that like it's an unimportant part of our mission, when it's like what part of what so deeply roots me to this, like, is like deeply, deeply disheartening.
Right. No, I totally get you, Courtney. And again, like, and I think that even just in the concept of abortion, I think that people just limited Planned Parenthood to just, oh, they give abortions. And it's like, it's so much more. Like, Planned Parenthood is a community resource. It is a vital community resource, especially for places that don't have like community health centers and access to free healthcare and things like that. Planned Parenthood really is able to provide those. So what are some solutions that you guys have, that you guys hope to see as outcomes for this campaign for your collective?
Yeah. Real quick, back to your point about Planned Parenthood not only providing abortions. You are absolutely right. We are so proud of all of the services that we're able to hold here at Planned Parenthood and administer to our community at large. While we're not only an abortion provider, we're also really proud of being an abortion provider. Yeah. It's something that we stand strongly behind and don't want to waver from and ever be ashamed of. While I'm really, really so over the moon proud of our life-saving services that we afford to folks, I'm also really, really proud of our abortion work. In regards to what we want to see Emily Callan step down. We want to see accountability from Emily Callan. In order to move the needle forward towards freedom, Emily Callan must not be in reproductive freedom spaces any longer. She has caused harm to folks doing the real work in our community, and we want to see that stop effective as soon as possible and as soon as we're able. We also want to see some accountability from our board. They've also caused harm. We've heard of some really traumatic things happening in board spaces as well, and that needs to be addressed. If Emily's ultimate boss is the board and they refuse to hold her accountable, what do we have left? We have no place to go for accountability or place to really move forward. And that to us is dangerous. I also want to hear true apologies to staff members who were harmed, true retributions to staff members who are harmed. This isn't just something where you can pick up and go and move on to another career. Like, you hurt folks in a deep, deep way. You halted work in so many senses, and that's unacceptable. And I feel as folks in social and reproductive justice movements, we must hold each other accountable and first try to call each other in. But there's only so many times we can call each other in until our hand is forced into a situation like this. There are also other folks on our board who have harmed staff, not only at PPPA, but throughout our affiliates, PPWP and PPSP specifically, who need to be reckoned with as well.
Yeah, like, just to echo everything Sam said, that we like provide in order for people to live like full autonomous lives. And like, I'm so proud of it. I think the only other thing I would add as far as like our demands is that like, I think like we often hear that organizing and like field staff are like the backbone of this organization. Like 12 out of the like, I think it's like 10 or 12 of the like full-time staff members are on the organizing team. Like, right? Like, but we have no seat at the board to help make these decisions. Like, I would like to see and it's not unheard of, right? It's not unheard of for organizations to have a staff member or a union member on the board, someone who's like living that work day in and day out and can give you the real perspective of like why certain decisions need to be made, right? Like we've been like siloed and cut off and gate capped from the board, and I think that's like another power move, and is like very intentional so that people don't know the importance of the work we're doing. But I think this campaign is like demonstrating that day in and day out. We are demonstrating through this campaign like why we're so good at our jobs and why we deserve to have them. And can you imagine, like, this is the thing I keep like telling Sam all the time, can you imagine if they had like not gate kept information from us from like other campaigns? Like, could you imagine like what abortion access and what sexual and reproductive health access and freedom could look like in the state of Pennsylvania if organizers at Planned Parenthood and Pennsylvania Advocates were truly empowered to go for it? Like, we are not gate kept. We like have a very like democratic decision making process for this campaign, and like talk to each other about like what's going to happen in different moves we're talking about. And that's not how it's been at like PPPA. It's Emily making decisions and like us getting dictated to, and like us getting like chastised yet if we even make a peep saying that we might disagree. And you know what's happened? Like, we lost seats in the election. We lost pro-sexual and reproductive health seats. We lost money that we could have gotten for like helping people access sexual and reproductive health care. Can you imagine? Like, I would love to see a world where we had that money. I would love to see a world where we like flip some more seats and where we had power to not just like defend against like bad sexual reproductive health abortion bans, but a world where we could actually like push forward like bold new change that Pennsylvania wants, like to see like, comprehensive like sexual health education mandated across the state. Young people across the state want that. Like, they need that in order to make the healthiest, best decisions for their bodies. Sorry, I could go off on a tangent on that.
Oh no, I'm listening, and I'm just thinking to myself like, oh, so Courtney, when is your name going to be on the ballot?
Oh, I don't know if I want that.
But that's what we need though, right? We need passionate people who have been on the ground, who have knocked on doors, who have talked to people in these various communities, who can go out there and speak to that and advocate for them.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think it's really important to mention that there is a virus through nonprofits in general. It's founded on white saviorism, and we must decolonize our workplace if we want to do true work and move the needle forward and center our communities.
Oh, Sam, I am loving that language, girl. You got my spidey senses tingling. I'm excited. All right. Well, ladies, I just want to thank you for joining us today on the TCP in the morning. Guys, if you want to reach out down in the comments, we have access to their WordPress, and we will also put their email and contact information if you would like to reach out, help support. If you want to volunteer, knock on some doors, send a letter or an email. Get involved. Again, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for more TCP in the morning.